20 plus years of experience in consulting, coaching, with over 100 organizations in 27 plus countries. So ladies and gentlemen, if you could please help me welcome Pradeep C onto the stage, please. And the topic that Pradeep's going to be presenting is being unconsciously conscious and competent about quality. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so I have to give you a small disclaimer about my presentation because I'm not going to speak anything technical about testing, but I'm going to speak about something technical on how to build a good tester. And that's an experiment which I have been doing for quite some time. I would say for the last 4 years. I've been working with a few organizations, modeling with them on a possible solution to build a competent tester. And I'm here to share those experiences with you and the lessons that I have learned while doing these experiments. It is still an ongoing study, so my conclusions are more of an opinion at this point of time, which I would express to you. And my style of presentation is a little different than what you would have seen in other speakers. I normally use a cartoon or a picture, to try and articulate my message. That has been my way of telling the message to all of you. So sometimes when you see those cartoons and you feel a little bad or a little good, don't restrict yourself. You can purely be expressive. But before I go into the topic, I want to ask if anyone in the room are considering themselves as stupid. That's good. Thanks for not keeping me on the stage alone. Okay? That's nice. So many a times, the first important issue that comes up when I talk to individuals about their competency is that they're very unconscious about it. Do you agree? Anyone has a different opinion or a point of view on that? You're unconscious in your competency till date. Should I prove it by some data? So let me ask you this question. How many of you are engineers in this room? Fantastic. How many of you have 70% or more marks during your graduation? That's great. And how many of you use any of those courses that you studied in engineering today? Okay, that's interesting. So the number of hands kept going down with each question. Now, did you ever ask yourself this question of, am I really incompetent? Did any one of you ask yourself that question? Most of the time, managers do the job of making us feel so, yes or no? Right? The manager would call you for a review. It's like one of those hot air balloon experiments, right? Do you know the joke of the hot air balloon? There was this gentleman going in a hot air balloon, and he realizes he lost his way. And then he decides to look around, take some help, and he finds a person on the field, so he lowers the balloon down to 30 feet and yells out to the guy on the ground and says, "Hey, do you know where I am?" The individual on the ground replies, "You're in a hot air balloon 30 meters above the ground." And he says, "So you must be a technical person." So he says, "How did you guess that?" He says, "What you said was technically correct, but not useful." Then the person says, "Okay, so you must be management." So he says, how did you conclude that? You're right, and how did you conclude that? He says, "First of all, you never knew where you're going. Number two, you still are not clear where you are. Number three, you still want help. And when I provide help, the fault is mine." Right? And that's exactly what I have seen in many organizations where organizations don't really acknowledge that the serious issue that they have is not really a process issue. It really is not a tool issue, but it's more a competency issue. But unfortunately, there are two major reasons why this problem doesn't really get addressed. The first reason is an economic reason, right? You have to create a capability in an organization when you do not know what is going to happen next week in terms of the required competencies from a project or from a client or from a technology change. So you certainly can't make an investment. That's an illogical decision if you try to do that. Am I right? As in, why would you invest in uncertainty? You always need to invest in certainty. That's when the risk pays back. Now, technology is changing rapidly. The number of programming languages are large. The number of testing tools are growing by the dozen. Then how do you really invest in building competency on all these capabilities? That's the first question. The second question that they normally face is cultural, right? How do I create not only a competency, but a competency that is aligned to my organization's culture, where I have to remain clear about my culture. At the same time, they have to be globally acceptable. Am I right? That means you have to be trained like an individual in an X organization in India, but this person should be a globally acceptable resource. Possible? What do you think is a possibility here? Do you think it's really possible to solve both of these dimensions? It's a big question, and that's exactly where the silence in the room is equally the common perception that I see when I meet customers. They're also quiet about it. Some of them are very diplomatic to say, hey, if you have an answer, tell us that, right? And that's where I noticed, and I kind of worked for the last 7 years with ETI as a venture, where the intent was to kind of create a competency so that it becomes what we call as a muscle memory. If you play a game, you realize that every player practices a lot before he goes onto the field, and on the field, the probability of him striking that correct shot becomes kind of incidental, and it looks like he's a great player. But no one looks at the amount of practice that individual goes through to really come to the field and play, correct? And that's exactly where we said, can we create something called as a unconscious competence? And what is the way an organization really needs to take? And what are the challenges that they really face when they're trying to implement this kind of a journey? That's the gist of my talk today. So, as I said, this is purely a viewpoint. Now, to demonstrate my conscience life cycle, I'll present a simple graph. When I was talking to people, I realized a lot of them, when I said competency, they demonstrate an emotional response when someone comes and says, hey, you're not competent. There is a certain emotional response every mind goes through. It's like telling you that you have cancer. Right? First debate is, why me? But before even that, why me? No, it's not true. Do we contest? Yes or no? Like if I walk up to you in any average situation and I say you're an idiot, what would be your first reaction? I'm an unknown guy to you, and I say you're an idiot. What would you say? You won't accept it, right? There's no data, there's no proof, and you are nobody, and you're walking up to me to say this. How dare you, right? Now, in many of these organizations, the first aspect is the same, immobilization. First, there is a stunning effect, as they call it. You're a little immobilized. Who is this? Why is he telling this to me? Number two, there is a denial. No, I'm not. I'm not a dumb idiot guy. You don't have data, correct? Then there comes a sense of anger, yes or no? Right? That's an emotional response that we see. Then there's a bargaining. That means if I actually try to give a logic to explain, like as I gave the example of you completing an engineering with 70%, and still not being clear as to why you did that particular course, then there is a certain sense of reasoning that comes into the mind, right? You'll say, okay, there's some point what you're saying there. That data point is right. Let me try to understand what's your real logic. Then comes a stage of depression, right? If I start to go through the same logic of why we did a course of engineering, like an example is I can go further and say, do you know solid-state thermodynamics if you have done engineering? I'm sure all of you faced an interview, did you? When you were first job, remember your first job experience. Fresh out of college, fantastic degree in your hand, and the assumption that you're going to conquer the world. And here is this one guy who probably is interviewing you, whom you don't even know, and he's asking you a very pointed, specific question, saying, do you know solid-state thermodynamics? And he says, can you give me the formula for entropy? What would be your reaction? A depression, yes or no? That means, come on, I knew it, I read it, I wrote an exam on it. My professors felt I was a stud on campus on that, and I'm not able to recollect it. So there's a certain sense of a depression that comes in. May not be an exaggerated version of depression that you go out and commit suicide, but certainly there is a bad feeling, right? And then you go out to test, right? Then you go back and start to prepare again. Because you're questioned here, and you do not have an answer, and you got an experience of what went wrong. So you tend to sit back and collect your thoughts and try to present that again, correct? And you try to prepare for questions. Do you do that? Because you want to do better. That's a fundamental human instinct. You don't want to fail. You want to always do better. After testing, then it comes to a certain conclusion. Can you learn every subject that you have gone through in engineering to face an interview? Yes, no? Would you like to? Even in the interest of being better than the last situation? Do you do that on a constant basis every day? Like every time a boss says, you didn't do a job well, do you really go back home, sit down, make notes, and say, these are the 5 things I did bad, and I accept them, and now I need to work on them, and let me open a book, read it, and correct it? Is that the normal way? No, it's not, because, I know the school university system, right? The way we went through universities, right? How many of you really went to classes every day? That's a big question. First, muscle memory, right? In the sense, the idea is you should not be doing what you're supposed to do every day. That's the first rule, correct? Smartness isn't doing less and getting more. True? Okay, so what did we do in the university? You prepared before the examination, 1 week before, or 2 weeks before? Oh, okay, 1 month before, anyone? A day before. Oh, brilliant. And a day before with what? Did you really open the textbook and expect to complete the textbook in 1 day, the night before typically, and then answer the questions, and that's how you got 70%? Okay, you take some kind of a sample questions, yes or no? Because the brain kicks in and says, hey, you know what? You don't really need to go through this whole exercise of studying all the book. This whole concept of probability which my instructor taught in mathematics, let me apply that. And I know that the instructor has not changed his style of teaching for the last 15 years. That's a data point given to us. The subject has not changed for 15 years. The syllabus has not changed for 15 years. So if I apply a basic probability and understand the pattern of the questions, I probably will read a model paper, which someone also has given us, right, in those days? Yes, no? So do you still have model papers, guidebooks, cheat sheets? Not the cheating sheets, which we carry, but the cheat sheets at least, right? The cheat sheets. And then once you have those, you prepare through them, have the known answer, and then you would go into the examination, finish, and you cross. Yes or no? Now let me ask you, how many years of education did you have on an average? From the age of 3, typically. Now let's count it from 5, which is the first grade. You can't count 3 to 5 because you're still figuring out the patterns. Yes or no? Should I really go to school, not go to school? The reason is economic. Father says you won't get food, so go to school. That's a simple decision, yes or no? But given a chance, no go to school, correct? Now, you go to this 21 years, 3 to 24, that's your age, right? Or sometimes 5 to 24, if I were to be a little lenient. 19 years of muscle memory. The body and the mind telling you, find out a quick way to complete this. Don't focus on anything called quality, because that's painful, that's a tough route. You just have to get things done. That's a smart thing, yes or no? Agree? Can we change that habit overnight? As in, you will have a conscience stroke, obviously, and I'm sure when you had the first interview, you would have a conscience stroke, correct? I'm not good enough. Like one of your friends who copied from you gets the best job because he could speak a little better English. Happen? Someone else gets a promotion because he could just articulate a little better, but you knew the technical code and you actually helped him write the code. Have you faced those situations? Right? And when you selfishly think about it, that certainly starts to bother us. Right? Well, you may be a great friend, but selfishly it bothers us. So that's where there's a sense of acceptance that comes in, saying, I'm like this only, yes or no? And then we try to kind of force this I am like this only to the rest of the world and try to push our way through, which is what we call as grunt work. That means you're trying to reinforce and justify and justify and justify till the point, you really need to get a much stronger stroke. It's like a smoker's problem. Do you know a smoker's problem what it is? Anyone of you in the room who smoke? Very few hands. Now slowly the numbers are going down. Good. So I smoke. So let me tell you my personal example. So what you see me now is 14 pounds lesser than last year. Okay, and I still smoke. So I go to my wife. My wife, of course, is a statistician, and she says, like, she's got lots of data to prove that smoking kills people. Okay? So my first counter argument is that cheese also kills people, right? Ghee, paneer, all cholesterol contributing factors, they kill more people than cigarettes if you go by statistics. Yes or no? I'm not convincing any one of you to convert to smokers, by the way, okay? So don't take it that way, okay? So that argument is gone. So then is the emotional argument that comes in, right? So the emotional argument is, you look at the research, look at your friends, look at your family, why do you want to still continue smoking? It looks very illogical. So my answer is pretty simple for that. And I take a pack of cigarettes. Any one of you have seen a pack of cigarettes? I'm sure all of you have. Nowadays they even put pictures, right? What's written on the pack of cigarettes? Anyone read it? Come on, be conscious about things which you don't do also. Smoking kills. Smoking is injurious to health. Then you take a single cigarette out and look at the cigarette. What's written on the cigarette? What's written on the cigarette? Nothing. Normally it says Marlboro, right? So my answering and reasoning is pretty simple, like many of us do, which is not dangerous. They wrote it on the pack, which means if I smoke 20 at a time, that's when it's bad. And I never smoke 20 at a time. I can't. So do you think I'm eligible for the reasoning to continue smoking? Logic is right, but still I'm not consciously accepting the fact that it is something bad and I need to cut down, correct? Until that conscious acceptance comes in, there is not going to be a change in the behavior. Am I right? And to create that conscious competence in an organization so that people start to believe that they need to learn and they need to invest their time in learning and they have to do it in a structured manner and they have to do this so that the company can benefit and they personally can benefit is a very, very noble thought. Yes or no? Am I right? It's a noble thought. The reason why I say noble thought is because it cannot be implemented across masses. It's only eligible for a few. True? Now, why doesn't it happen? Any ideas why it won't happen? Now that you are all consciously understanding what I'm getting at, what do you think? Why do you think so many intelligent individuals were never conscious about improving themselves? Smoker's problem, okay, but they don't smoke. Any other suggestions? Any one of you thought about this? Okay, but I just proved to you that we are all not great. And we are all accepting that consciousness. Now, my problem is the next phase, which means once we have consciously accepted, then why is the change not happening in an organization that there is a structured learning? Any ideas? Any thoughts? Okay, so let's assume for a moment. I'm saying my problem is the second stage, as I said. The first major problem is there's no conscious acceptance, and then the second part is to convert it. Changes stuff. So should we not change? Now, my argument is how to make the change happen. That's what you're all here for, right? You want to go back to your office and tell someone saying, we have to change. We are? Fear of failure? But you're already failing. We're not improving, so think about it this way. The way I look at my life is very different. There's no urgency, okay? Procrastination, okay? So these are all individual reasons. I'm saying, can an organization, which is assumedly a collective set of intelligent people, solve this problem? Assuming one individual cannot. One cannot, we agree? Individually, each one of will give us enough reasons not to change. Correct? So how do you move someone from those stages? First of all, so let me just give you my summary of that maturity life cycle, what I call it in conscious competence. It's very simple. The first one is what is an unconscious incompetence, which is, I don't know that I'm bad. It's okay, pardonable, yes or no? Like if someone takes me to a golf course and says, play a golf ball, and I don't hit the shot, I don't have to kill myself for it, yes or no? Because I don't know the game of golf, I don't know, I've never played it, and it's the first time I'm doing it, so it's okay. It's not known to me. The second stage is conscious incompetence. That's the most painful state, yes or no? That's where frustrations come from. That's where all of us get irritated. That's where we try to project different images of ourselves. And that's the real issue. But then, okay, conscious incompetence. You know what you don't know, but you don't work on it, right? Then you come to the stage of conscious competence. So let's assume for a moment I ask you this question saying, okay, forget about bashing you up. Let's ask, what are you good at? Have any one of you made a note of that anytime? I know, you need to improve is a difficult story. But at least do you go back home with a great feeling and say, you know what, I'm real rock star on this. And no one can touch me. And I'm going to do this every day. Do we do that? No. Because the second one doesn't allow you to come to the first one, yes or no? The third one, correct? Because you go back killing ourselves. And it's very difficult to feel good about what you know and what you don't know. Once you come to that stage, the next one is subconscious competence, which becomes muscle memory, yes or no? Like, for example, do you brush your teeth in the morning? Are all of you sure? Because I'm told there's a new chewing gum which eliminates that particular purpose, right? No. Or do you forget any time when you wake up? Are you sure? Even after a great night, party night, lot of drinks, and next day morning, 7 o'clock, review call, would you still brush your teeth? Do you really brush your teeth with circles on the teeth or, just some other way? Okay, whatever you are trained to, do you have your mother watching over you to see whether you brushed your teeth? You don't, right? It kind of becomes a habit, right? Today, so your subconscious competence today is more about that muscle memory. So now, just like writing reports in testing is a subconscious competence, yes or no? You open a previous report, copy Control-C, Control-V, change the project code, project name, change a few data points, especially if you ask someone for a qualitative feedback. Quantitative is easiest, yes or no? Now the tools are also taken over that space, yes or no? And they'll give you fantastic visualizations of that particular data, so no problem there. But if you ask someone a qualitative report on a test that's done, do you get information? In fact, when you speak to people, it's a very interesting conversation. The point I'm trying to make is that in this particular scenario, there is a possibility that something could have gone wrong. Nice statement. Anyone understood what I'm trying to refer here? In my opinion, that is what I was actually talking about. Did any context here? Did anyone understand what I'm trying to get at? It's difficult, right? Because these are random words just put together into a sentence to make look like a good English. So the point is to go to a subconscious level, there must be a structured approach that people need to follow, of creating their own competency dictionaries, understanding what are the specific skills, specific behaviors they would like to see, and then directing them through a learning model which will make the individuals perform these jobs. Just like how you did induction training, right? When you did induction training, that's what they go through, intense, standardized way of pushing them through a single mill. Unfortunately, the design that goes into that mill is also a big question. So that's what I'm saying. If an organization decides to do that, they need to create such kind of mechanisms wherein the dictionaries are identified, the roles are identified, the role-specific behaviors are identified, and then the role-specific behaviors are groomed over a duration of time. Right? And the outcomes are also monitored from the business outcomes. That means after you put the individual into a particular project, does he really demonstrate that kind of an outcome or not? Sounds very academic, yes or no? Right? To most of you, is that the first reaction? It's very academic, it's very difficult, it's long drawn. It's not going to help us. Now, this problem, we have done it for almost around, in the US, I work with almost around 14 organizations. Some of them are large insurance providers who are completely risk averse. And for them, the investment in a testing activity is still a cost. And they have to continue to reduce that as a percentage of the total investment that they're making. And they have to make sure that it is a sustainable affair because they can't outsource forever. So some of these organizations, what they've done is they've moved to a further stage where they're saying they're of mindful competence, which means the design itself comes into play even before the individual is brought into that particular role. And a lot of them are actually working on that particular space. So I'll tell you the lessons what I've heard. Some of these you must have seen, but I'll tell you in the context of the consciousness. Look at the joke. Do you relate to that? How many of you visited a barber? Looking at you, some of you had a haircut, looks like, and some of you don't need a haircut. Right? Now, interestingly, the barber is a very classic guy of whose muscle memory or mental memory of what to ask when he sees a customer is programmed in. Do you change your barber? How many of you wish to experiment with your hairstylist? Today we'll go here, tomorrow we'll go there, and then once you go there and you say, make me look good. Would you like to try that anytime? No? Especially as age comes up and the hair reduces, the tendency to experiment and the probability to experiment also reduces, yes or no? And after a certain threshold, it doesn't matter which barber, yes or no? Exactly. Maybe they'll embarrass, again, as I said, it's unconscious incompetence. I don't know hair cutting, right? So whatever he does to my hair, I'm okay with. But again, that's a difficult state, I agree. So the point I'm making here is, the barber always asks every customer, observe this next time when you go to the barber. You may have gone to this guy 150 times in your year till date. And he will still say, good morning, well, how would you like your hair cut? Yes or no? It's a very basic question that he would ask you. He knows that you are not intelligent on the haircutting profession. You don't know how exactly hair is cut. You don't know any damn about the styling of hair. You don't even know how the hair looks after it is cut. And he also knows you won't care after 1 week of how the hair looks. Yes or no? But still, with all that knowledge, still his profession tells him, you know what, ask him. Because you don't want to take chances for that. And the transaction value here, if you look at, is probably 150 rupees. Yes or no? He doesn't even have the risk. Even if he has to refund the money and say, thank you, get lost, he still wouldn't take a risk. Isn't it an interesting observation? So think about it. So first thing is, do not assume that we are all competent and we know what we are good and what we are not good at, number one. We all have to kind of start with that particular thing. That's where, as I said, unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence. Reach that state. This happens. Think different. That's what the management says. Have any one of you heard any vice president in any organization who tells you not to change, not to innovate, not to go further, not to do more? In fact, a company's mission statement is very easy to reproduce, yes or no? We would love to satisfy our customers with the best of our capabilities and best of our intent, 24/7 in our organization to keep you happy. Sounds like a mission statement of your company? A few words would have changed probably. Maybe a little better English than what I just said. Is that the common understanding? But that's not the problem. All of you have got that right. But the problem next level is, how well equipped are you to play with better players? How well equipped are you to attract people who are smarter than you, who will work with you and be open to work with smarter crowd than you are? Many of us feel very threatened in that situation, yes or no? Like imagine, okay, I had this personal experience, I'll tell you. So I had a chance once way back, before I knew golf, and when Tiger Woods was not as popular as Tiger Woods, to meet Mr. Tiger Woods, right? And what is your initial reaction when you meet someone like that? Today, of course, Tiger Woods is a big man, and of course a bad man, right? And of course he's not the number one. But still, any one of you would like to have a game with Tiger Woods? Sachin Tendulkar in cricket, for example, in India. Would you like to just go to bat with him? And stand there and say, hey, Sachin, you screwed up, man. That's not the right shot. Hold on, I'll come there. When Sachin technically makes a mistake, I'm not saying that he's not flawless. Of course, he will have a mistake, correct? A wrong call for a run, for example. Right? Would you be able to do that? It is difficult, yes or no? Because there is this whole aura of Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, and there is this whole aura of aligning to him. And that's where, the subservient culture in an organization tends to take over. Like the boss, when he says, let's do something, the idea is to just align blindly without actually critically thinking about how do we go about doing it and critically questioning it. And naturally, in the organization, what happens is everyone breeds suboptimality, yes or no? Because the boss is not the only brain working there. So naturally, he can't think for 60 minds in the organization. So effectively, he's doing 1/60th of his thought process in that particular team. So the team tends to be suboptimal. Agree? Does that sound mathematically right? Okay. Confronting the problem? That's a common situation, yes or no? You solve, okay, let's solve the competency problem. Let's all admit we are all incompetent. What's the next problem? How do we become competent? Which area do we want to become competent? That's the next problem, yes or no? And the solution is actually a series of problems that you're solving to reach a final goal, yes or no? But then we give up after the first problem being confronted, and if the problem is of a greater magnitude, we tend to kind of dismiss the whole goal itself, and then we tend to what we say, we sleepwalk through life, yes or no? That's how we become unconscious about our competence and lose the benefit. Economic problem, yes or no? We have to build competency. We have 200 people who need to become competent. Okay? Now 200 people need to be trained. How do you train them? Oh, we don't know even the curriculum. Oh, no. Before the curriculum comes the issue of role. What role do they need to play? Oh, they have to play multiple roles. There are 6 different projects on which 200 different people are working, average 30 different technologies. So how do we develop a curriculum? Oh, we don't know. Go back to the previous slide and say, drop the problem. Competency is not the serious issue. Let's hire a better guy. Okay? And these guys will one day or the other, lose interest. Okay? So my answer in a very simple nutshell, just to summarize is this. We all know the problem, right? We all acknowledge the problem, but we don't accept. Just like this individual here, as I said, right? He's reading a book on how to be romantic when his wife is trying to be romantic with him. Do we do that? I've seen a number of people when I say, so what are you going to do in the next phase of your life? What are you going to really improve upon? Many of them say, yeah, I'm thinking of a course. I'm thinking of a new certification that they launched. I'm thinking of a development program. I'm actually clueless, so can you help me? Because in my organization, I receive calls every day of that nature, especially from experienced people. Because the juniors are very clear, right? 0 to 2, they're very clear in the current generation, yes or no? I'll come in, earn a few dollars, thank you, bye-bye. 2 years later, you never know, I may be the best drummer in the town. I'm not even interested in working. That's the startup culture nowadays, yes or no? The millennials, right? The ones we are confused are the ones who are the before ones, right? The before millennials. And the challenge thereby is, I'm going to leave you here with a simple thought. And that's exactly what I've learned through these experiments. And I'll leave it in a very simple way by showing you that slide. There are only 2 options in front of us. Okay? And many reasons which I've seen why people have not really accepted the change and moved on making themselves consciously competent or subconsciously competent about quality is because they do not either lead that in it, in the sense they don't believe in it first of all. So it's very difficult to lead or enroll or inspire someone to follow that particular initiative. Let me give you a simple question to think about, and let me give you a small quiz to think about for you. Okay? How many of you really believe that quality is essential for every aspect that you do? Okay? So go back, do this audit, because this is one exercise which I've done. Take a piece of paper and write down clearly 10 great things that you've done of quality every day, and watch it for 10 days. Okay? And I'll give you my contact details. You can always write to me. And I know the response rate is normally 0.02% for this particular exercise. Out of 100, probably 1% would probably write back to me saying, this is my 10 days audit, and this is where I stand, and these are my clear elements. And after that, look back at those 10 sheets and put them in front of you one after the other, and you will see a pattern yourself on what you really are good at. And I will send you a questionnaire which will help you evaluate yourself. There's a 93 questions questionnaire. I can't obviously use it in a 30-minute presentation. I'll mail that to you. It's a very simple psychographic questionnaire that helps you to understand whether you're really consciously looking at quality or whether you're completely unconscious about it, and if you're unconscious about it, where you are. We have a complete framework which actually maps around 374 knowledge and skill areas for testing function, and we use that to kind of understand an individual, and based on that, we want to create a learning plan and support them. That's how we do it. And that's exactly where you have to kind of think whether you're leading, whether you're following, or trying to do both. Most of the situations I've seen is that people try to do both, and that's exactly why they fail, and that's how the focus loses, and then the problem starts, and then the problems become a negative vicious cycle, and they never get out of it. Okay? And then they continue to sleepwalk. Year on year, it passes by. So, thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and if you have any questions, I'm always available outside, and I'll warn you that if you meet and talk to me, I'll normally take 45 minutes. Okay? And thanks a lot, for giving me the opportunity and listening to me patiently on a topic that's of interest to me.